Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gann, alongside my partner, Jack and Nicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. Now, the chance, go check out our website, justsayingfootball.com. Follow us on Instagram at Just Saying, no GWJ as for our article and video updates. And don't forget to check us out on Spotify and get us in your ears at Just Saying Football. Week 11's here. Week 10 was a great one. 5 game-winning and expiring field goals. It was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, you can't script them better than that. You know, like teams we didn't really expect. We'll get into more later too, but yeah, no, last week was a doozy, man. And now this week, got some good primetime games, got some good Sunday night football game this week we'll have to get into. And yeah, you want to get into it. We also have a lot of blowout games this week. We're getting to that point in the season where we're starting to see which teams are in it for the long haul and which ones are looking like it's tank season.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we get into our blowout categories, some only really running back relevant fantasy news here when it comes to teams on a bye. But we got the Atlanta Falcons, Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots, and New Orleans Saints all on a bye this week. So just keep that in mind for fantasy if you got Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, or Jonathan Taylor. But let's jump into our blowouts because we're going a lot of the same way in this one. We got the Las Vegas Raiders making their way to Miami to take on the Dolphins. Miami's favored in this one by minus 11.5, over under here at 46.5. Miami's coming off the bye. They've only beaten teams with a losing record. And guess what? The Raiders are coming to their building. What are your thoughts about this one?
Yeah, and right now, man, you know, the Raiders are coming in with a 500 record. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But Miami is favored by 11.5. I think we saw last week that, you know, the Raiders are a good team. They can beat bad teams. But we saw them with the Jets in prime time, and it didn't look as pretty until the last second. So Miami, like you said, all those reasons coming off a bye, the potential for this week, they're at home. Love Miami in this matchup.
Yeah, like you said, it wasn't really pretty against the Jets, that's for sure. Now, while the Dolphins' defense isn't necessarily terrifying, they do have Jalen Ramsey, obviously, and Bradley Chubb. This offense is what's scary. Devon Achane could be back. And one thing I do want to say, Dolphins, rest of the season, they have an interesting one because they're 1-1 in their division. They don't necessarily need to beat everyone in their division, but they do have the Jets coming up twice, the Titans, the Cowboys, Washington, Baltimore, and Buffalo one more time. So
Oof.
Miami looking like they have a very good shot of winning the division. But let's move this right along to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, making their way to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Minus 10.5 here to the 49ers, over under here at 41.5. 49ers were firing on all 4 cylinders. CMC did not get into the end zone. That broke the streak, which sucked. I'm locking in the 49ers off the bat. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you know, I looked at this on paper before and I said, wow, this is probably going to be, you know, a close game. Tampa's kept it close. But San Francisco at home, we just saw them go all the way to Jacksonville and kick the crap out of them. They, like you said, they're just killing it on everything. I think that we love seeing the young Bosa, you know, kind of mix right now, a little OSU comeback. But, you know, I got to shout out Mike Evans. We were saying it on Sunday, 87th touchdown. That right now, 16th all time, and he is creeping up in the list to some pretty big names, tied with Andre Reed right now. But I got to put it out there. Brock Purdy, man, he's been killing it. And, you know, he could be an X factor against Tampa's defense.
Absolutely. And, you know, this Chase Young, Nick Bosa thing is absolutely unfair that the 49ers have this. OSU brothers, like you said. All right, moving this right along. We have the Dallas Cowboys making their way to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Dallas is favored in this one by minus 10.5, over 41.5. These are some massive spreads we're getting into in week 11, and I absolutely love it.
Dangerous ones.
Some coaching news here in terms of play calling. Frank Reich calling plays for the first 9 weeks of the season, rescinded them. They gave him the bye, then they prepped. Is now taking back the offensive play calling duties. But I'm going with the Cowboys. They absolutely demolished their Giants last week. I think they're going to do the exact same with the Panthers.
Yeah, man, they're rolling right now. Dak had 5 touchdowns last week, over 400 yards. Even Brandon Cooks had over 170 yards last week, which I found incredible. You know, obviously the Giants couldn't really keep up on offense, and I think Carolina is kind of in the mix for the same formula right now. Yeah, Dallas defense, man, they are no joke. But I will say one thing for this matchup as a fantasy tip: straight up drop Miles Sanders. He is no longer relevant in this offense.
Couldn't agree with you more. Does Tony Pollard get in the end zone this time? He hasn't scored since week 1.
This has to be the matchup. They set him up last week. He could have had 2 against the Giants. Yes.
All right, absolutely love it. Moving this right along, NFC North showdown. Chicago Bears making their way to Detroit to take on the Lions. Lions favored in this one -9.5. Over under here 46.5. Locking in Detroit right off the bat. They're firing on all 4 cylinders offensively. Defensively, Amon-Ra St. Brown 600-yard reception games. Chicago Bears might have Justin Fields in this one trending in the right direction as of now at the recording. That still doesn't make me feel any more comfortable.
No, he is on a 7-game audition from what I'm hearing in a lot of good circles. So it's not looking great for him. The Bears could have a really high pick. I believe 2 picks next year. So, this is going to be a tough one for them. We just saw Detroit go toe-to-toe with Justin Herbert and come out on the other side. 9.5, give me that. I think that they go rolling. Last week, I got to say, I think David Montgomery was a little limited, even though he destroyed everything. So I think get used to this formula now, this 1-2 punch, 50-50, but they're both going to produce.
Absolutely, but it is definitely the Gibbs show, I think. It's been seen, and Montgomery said it on the sideline if you haven't seen the clip, but he was I had to get something to there. It's like you said, it's limited, but he's gonna make some magic happen here and there. All right. Moving to start along to the NFC East, where we got another showdown. New York Giants making the way to Washington to take on the Commanders. Washington is favored in this one, -9.5. Over under here at 46.5. A lot of 9.5, 10.5 spread through 46.5 over unders. I like Washington in this one. It was a tough loss for them last week. I mean, Giants right now. Are you playing for Caleb Williams?
You got to be playing for somebody else. I don't know, man. If even if you bring Daniel back, you just need somebody. If you're going to pay and bite the dust on his contract, you got to bring somebody back in there. Tyrod's out. It's been an unfortunate season for the Giants. They have injuries every which way. But the Commanders. Washington 9.5 against the Giants is a tough sentence for me to say. I won't take
that spread. I think it'll be closer than that, but
yeah. But I got to say,
this might be like a 16-7 game, though. It's not going to be pretty.
Yeah, I don't know. It could be a low-scoring game, but Sam Howell right now leading the NFL, just like everybody thought, with about 2,783 yards. That is more than Tua, more than your favorite quarterback. It's more than everybody. I think he does the same to the Giants this week. The Giants are scoring a league low 11.8 points. It sounds like how much a certain team score in a quarter.
All right, I like it. One more question before we get into our meh category. Is Ron Rivera on the hot seat?
I don't know. Right now, he is kind of making the adjustments that I thought they're making. I know there's a lot of new ownership there, so I feel like if he is able to turn at least like a 500 season, he won't be. But, they go on a skid. You never know what happens with a new first-year owner.
Couldn't agree with more. All right, and don't forget that you have Eric Bieniemy, offensive coordinator, also been thrown around in the head coach circle here and there every offseason. But into our meh category, where we have the Pittsburgh Steelers making their way to Cleveland to take on the Browns. Got some injury news in this one at the moment. Deshaun Watson out for the season, will be getting shoulder surgery. They had Nick Chubb go down, started to play really, really well. Now taking another big hit. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, if you had the Steelers defense and you're debating playing them any other way in fantasy, you're definitely playing them this week. Rookie quarterback. This was a great matchup. At the end of the day, you're looking at how the Steelers right now, they have a +10 turnover ratio. That's the best in the NFL. Right now, the Cleveland Browns are just struggling. They're going to not have the season we thought. They have one of the best defenses in the NFL, but they've lost now their franchise running back and their franchise quarterback for the season. Pittsburgh is still in the hunt, even though despite Cincy and the Ravens are in it. I just got to say it sucks that happened to them this season. But I like the Steelers away. No problem with this one.
Yeah, I also like the Steelers in this one. I just think I think that we saw Mike Tomlin come out this week and was like, we expect more from Pickett. We want more from Pickett. We know we can do more. And this is not something that we just started to work on, but we have been working on throughout the entire year. And I think this is a game where you can really make that change happen. If you want to win the game and you want to show like you're ready, it's definitely the game to do it against a division rival. They
Yeah.
just lost their starting quarterback, like their franchise quarterback for the year, like you just said. They don't have Nick Chubb, like we're mentioning. And one thing to keep in mind, everyone, about this injury with Deshaun Watson and what the Browns gave up. They gave up a first round pick in 2022, 2023, and 2024, as well as a 2023 third round pick and a 2024 fourth round pick. So Houston still has a ton of capital on this, and they're having a great season. So
and as long as Cleveland continues to go down, the Houston Texans continue to cash in. So on that draft capital. So, we're gonna have to wait and see that this offseason. That's a very good point.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, moving this right along. We have the Tennessee Titans making their way to Jacksonville to take on the Jaguars. Jacksonville saving this one -6.5, over under here of 40.5. Jacksonville just got nothing going against the 49ers last week. However, Tennessee getting nothing going against the Buccaneers. How you feeling about this one? Is this going to be a Derrick Henry insane game or not?
Yeah, I could definitely see this being a run-heavy game between Etienne and Derrick Henry. Both guys right now, top 5 in rushing in the NFL. Both quarterbacks kind of coming off struggling weeks. Tennessee, like the 49ers did last week to Trevor Lawrence, are an opportunity to pressure the quarterback and make them make mistakes. However, I think Jacksonville is going to need to bounce back against a divisional opponent this week. The Texans are in that race right now, and Derrick Henry, it still needs to be running through him if they're going to be getting this done. I know Will Levis had that 4-touchdown game, but they can't rely on his arm for every snap of the ball.
Couldn't agree with you more. And Derrick Henry in his career against Jacksonville, 260 carries, 1,373 yards, 16 touchdowns, and that's only in 13 games. Great stat line. I'm also going Jacksonville. The weak side of Jacksonville is their offensive line. They tried to address that. They traded for Ezra Cleveland, the Vikings guard, to sort of shore up that offensive line, but it is their biggest weakness, and it was evitable last week against the 49ers. However, the Tennessee Titans do not boast the same front that the San Francisco 49ers have. So I like Jacksonville in this one. I think this is like a get-right game for them. They beat a team in their division, and they just sort of shore up that the AFC South is theirs, but there's another team also in their division in the horizon that could be competing, and we'll get to them in just a moment. But first, we have the Los Angeles Chargers making their way to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Chargers are favored in this by -3, over under here of 43.5. Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, they went off last week. They've been going off, but they're just not winning games. Last week, they lost on a field goal, game expiring to the Lions. How you feeling on this one? Can Aaron Jones replicate what Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery did? Can AJ Dillon do it as well?
I feel like I just have flashbacks every year about this time in November about these devastating Chargers losses. Like, you're going through so many things that we have talked about in the years since Justin Herbert has gotten there, has really been about how they got to win these close games, because in the bigger picture of it, they got to beat Kansas City in their division. Right now, they got to go on the road, face an NFC opponent that's been struggling, that hasn't had a good offense. The Packers are not the Lions from last week where they're just going to match you with your energy. If the Chargers are able to get out in front, I do feel confident enough for them to get the win, no problem. I mean, Keenan Allen, 11 catches last week. You can tell no matter what happens, the offense is flowing through him. Last week, Herbert threw 4 touchdowns, one of them to Quentin Johnston, who we've been waiting for weeks to get. We were talking about last week, has been running routes, not getting stuff done. But genuinely, this is going to see, this is a get-right game for the Packers if they're going to do it. It's really their game to lose at home here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I like the Chargers in this one. I just think that Herbert, Allen, Eckler, this is such a dangerous trio.
Yeah.
I'm not liking what we're seeing from Green Bay, especially offensively. Their defense I thought was really going to step up and sort of take the helm in the way like the Jets have, and then that the Packers offense would slowly come together. It just hasn't been meshing.
Yeah.
The wide receivers, Jordan Love is getting it done. And I think right now you're looking at a critical moment for Love about these next 7 games that are about to happen are going to be critical for.
Do you put him in the same category that I'm putting Fields with, like the 7 games left, even though he's only had 1 year of experience compared to like Justin Fields?
I think so, just because of how long they had had let him sit when they moved up to get him at the time of the draft, who they could have gotten to help out Rodgers earlier to maybe taken this team to the championship, to maybe have won the Super Bowl. They kept losing, they passed on wide receivers a handful of time. So I think to some degree it has to do with the capital that they gave up and the mistakes that they made, and that they've now put themselves in this situation. I think with Fields, it's sadly it's now your third year. This is where people start to look at you. You've been injured all season. I think at this point you're kind of maybe playing for another team at this point. I also think there's been a lot of bad play calling on the side of the Bears. So, it's a mix of everything, as always in the NFL. It's never as clear as one thing. But I think there's a little bit more with Love, considering the success of the Green Bay franchise as well.
I get that. I understand that for sure.
Yeah, but moving this right along, we have some interesting teams in this one, as the Arizona Cardinals make their way to Houston to take on the Texans. Houston's favored in this one minus 4.5, over under here 47.5. The fact of the matter is that CJ Stroud is him. He's looking like the offensive rookie of the year, second in NFL passing yards, only behind Howell. I mean, he's 4-1 against teams above 500, back-to-back game-winning drives. And for all these reasons that I'm saying right now, I'm locking in the Texans because I absolutely love it.
Yeah, I'm riding with you on that. The Texans, right now the Cardinals, they're 2-8, and even though last week, me and you were texting back and forth about how great Kyler looked, I don't think that the Texans team is going to be, like we saw last week with the Cardinals. Like the Cardinals have an opportunity here to show that Kyler is still their guy, but CJ Stroud has been showing that he's their guy the whole season, like you mentioned. But last week we're looking at a couple right now. I'm trying to put it into perspective how fast he's developed. CJ Stroud, and I'm kind of wondering how the health of his receivers are right now, because we saw Noah Brown go off last week with Dalton Schultz. We also saw Nico Collins, who was out last week. Tank Dell went out. So he's had some injuries at his wide receiver position. I'm kind of interested to see how he goes at full strength. I think they will be almost full strength this weekend, so that gives them a huge boost at home. I'll take them at 4.5 very comfortably. I don't think Arizona's defense can handle them.
Yeah, I think that I agree with you about Arizona's defense, and it's going to be a tough one. McBride went off last week also for Arizona. Trey McBride, 8 receptions, 131 yards, no touchdowns in that one, but had a hell of a game. Someone to look out for in tight end and in fantasy, up and coming. I hope that they run the ball more to Singletary for the Texans. So that was great to see last week. 30 carries for 150 yards. Let's move this right along to the New York Jets making their way to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Bills are favored this by minus 6.5, over under here of 40. Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator, fired. Jack and I were literally texting each other. He goes, we were talking about it. I go, Ken Dorsey has to go, but I think it'll be done in the off season. And then about 5 seconds later, little Bleacher Report notification pops up. Ken Dorsey fired. It was like perfect.
We were like, is it going to be the GM, or are they going to have to do this or that? And they're like, no, they're just going to put Joe Brady in.
Yeah, they're just like, all right, here we go. And for what, I'm locking in Buffalo. That was a tough loss to stomach last week against Denver. Not because it's Denver, but because Troy Aikman and Joe Buck kept talking about this during the game, and they're absolutely right. Every single drive that Denver had, they were pretty much on the other side of the 50. They were in Buffalo territory, like the majority of that game. And they were held this entire time by the defense. And every time the Bills offense went out there, it was either just a failed drive into a punt or a turnover. And it was just so ugly. It was not a great game for Buffalo. That I think that this game against the Jets is just a great get-right game for them. They lost week 1, but that was on 9/11. It was on, Rodgers was running out of the tunnel and they lost him. Like, so much was going right for the Jets in that game. I just don't think it's happening again.
Yeah, and I think the Bills, they really do wish that they had that win back, especially where they are now in the division and what their position is looking like in the AFC, how tight the race is going to be the next few weeks for the playoffs. Give me Buffalo at home. Give me like the 6.5 too. Like, I think that if they can get out, because Josh Allen, he's a sick man. He gets 4 straight weeks of rushing touchdowns and 6 straight weeks of interceptions. That's great. But you know who loves committing turnovers more than Josh Allen is Zach Wilson,
That's
baby.
very
And
true.
that's just how it's got to be. It's just a balance of everything in the AFC East and everything that's crazy over there. But I will say, I think this is a get right game for them. We've seen a lot of offensive coordinators get fired, and offenses just let loose and tell the quarterback to go do his thing. Expect a big Diggs game next week for sure.
110%. I couldn't agree with you more. Now let's keep this moving along. So we have our games of the week. And our first one is the Seattle Seahawks making their way to LA to take on the Rams. Seattle saving this one by -1. Over under here at 46. Rams signed Carson Wentz before the bye week or during the bye week. So he had some extra time to prepare. However, Stafford is expected to be back despite the thumb injury. How are you feeling in this game? Seattle's coming off of a win, but not pretty. It wasn't pretty for them.
Yeah, they've been slipping up. We've seen them have some slip ups this year where they've even, almost came out of close games that they won where they should have lost. Some games where they, had an opportunity at the end to kind of come back, like you saw last week with Washington, and just, a crazy kind of freak blown coverage like that. I am gonna take LA here. This is gonna be like my kind of like upset for sure week. That Seattle -1 is a little nerve-wracking to me. The crazy thing is, I know this is going to be a high-scoring game. Both these defenses allow a lot of quarterback production against them. So, if Seattle starts slow, like we saw last week, I do believe that LA can get started. Matthew Stafford, they've had a little bit of time here. They just came off the bye. I think that, they wouldn't be playing him or preparing to play him unless he was fully healthy. And if he's fully healthy, I'll take them in this one.
I like that. Seattle. I'm going with Seattle. Week 1, Seattle was embarrassed at home against them 30-13. It was a tough one for them. I think you're right. If they start out slow, it's going to be a tough one for them. I do think though that they build on what they did in the second half
Yeah.
last. Geno Smith needs to be a little bit more consistent, like what he was last season.
Yeah.
And then I think the Seattle team becomes really scary. If they can get Jackson Smith and Jigba a little bit more involved in there, Tyler Lockett continues to be fantastic. Same with DK Metcalf. Kenneth Walker. That was a great catch and run.
Yeah, so much for Kenneth Walker having a rib injury last week. He said, "I have a rib injury, but don't worry, I'm gonna have an 80-yard run."
I can easily do that. The ribs are totally fine. Don't even worry about it. It's just what I do. All right. Let's move this into our last game of the week, my favorite game of the week. So we have the Minnesota Vikings making their way to Denver to take on the Broncos. Denver's favored in this one by -2.5. Over under here of 43.5. This is our Sunday night football game. Fun fact right now, no team in the AFC has more than a 2-game win streak. Denver is the only team to have 3 in a row. Vikings currently have a 5-game win streak. How are you feeling in this one?
Yeah, no, the hottest team in the league right now is trending upwards with their what do they call him? The Passtronaut? The Passtronaut.
Yep.
Josh Dobbs. Incredible.
Dobbs.
I gotta say, he's loving Mr. TJ Hawkinson. I've been doubting the GM of the Vikings. Obviously not with the Kirk Cousins, everything. He's looked great since then. What I'm saying is really TJ Hawkinson looking like the trade for the Vikings that they really, didn't know they needed last year. That's coming to fruition this week. 4 weeks the last 4 weeks, Sean, 35 catches, 377 yards, 2 touchdowns. I hit the +900 on the anytime touchdown. I texted you. I said, he looks like he's going to score. Scores immediately. Great day. And I love what they're doing here because everybody's getting involved. I feel like Powell's getting involved and Addison. And once Jefferson comes back, he'll kind of slide right back into this offense.
Yeah, sadly, at the time that's recording, we don't know if he's going to be in or not. I've been
They won't tell us.
Reporters. I've been looking at all the beat reporters that I know. Haven't heard anything. I'll be in the state this week. Hopefully, I can know before Sunday because I have him on my dynasty team. But Denver, a team you cannot sleep on. That is 110% sure. We just saw them, the 3-game win streak. Like I said, they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Bills, beating some top tier teams. Has been pretty for them, but they have gotten it done. The one thing I'm curious about is that the Vikings defense has been playing really well. How do you like them matched up against this Denver offense?
Honestly, I'm like loving what I'm seeing from you guys. This defense knows that they got to step up and let Josh Dobbs really get his full potential, get his feet in, into the pool here in Minnesota, which is probably very cold. And the key is really that I think it's just the defense has always been something that you've talked about could be the Achilles heel for the team, and we've seen it happen this year. They're looking great. All these guys on the defensive line around Hunter are looking fantastic, and so much turnover on the defense. We didn't know what was going to happen. Same thing with Denver. Now Denver as well. I think this is definitely a lower scoring game than we're expecting, despite both these offenses, kind of booming a little more than we expected this year. But also I'm going to ride the Courtland Sutton touchdown no matter what on this one. I wrote it last week, plus 200 no matter what. He just gets in the end zone. He has 7 touchdowns this year. I got to say, Russell Wilson, so we were talking about this off camera, he has 18 touchdowns this year. He only had 16 all last year. We were giving him crap. What happened to Russell Wilson?
Look, he's made it again.
Is he back?
It's
Is he back?
Pretty. It's just not pretty. That's the thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But he's getting the job done for them, and that's why they like him. I'm locking in the Vikings in this.
I'm locking in them too.
I gotta just go with my squad. I agree with you though. I don't think this game is gonna be pretty. I think it's gonna be under 43.5. I cannot stress enough. I don't think it's gonna be pretty. I looked up the weather report right now. It's supposed to be rainy, a little windy.
In Denver. Ooh, a little rain in Denver. Expect some field goals.
Yeah, some things to keep in mind. You like the Courtland Sutton anytime touchdown. I like the Hawkinson anytime touchdown. Dobbs and
I like that.
live near each other in Tennessee. They pass to one another. Well, Dobbs passes to Hawkinson in the offseason. So they work out together. So there's a little bit of familiarity there. So I like a Hawkinson anytime touchdown.
I love that.
Hopefully the Vikings
tie them together, baby.
if the Vikings can pull this off, man, I'll be very happy. We'll still be much in contention for the NFC North, which will surprise me. But I'm not going to sleep on this Broncos team, man. I will not sleep on them.
Don't sleep on them. Josh Dobbs has been great. The Vikings have looked great. They don't look like they've lost a beat. But if anybody is going to just knock you in your teeth and wreck up a win streak, it's Denver. We can no longer underestimate them the way we did the first 7 weeks.
No, you cannot.
Now beat Pat Mahomes, went on the bye, went on vacation, and came back and beat Josh Allen in primetime in Buffalo.
They're feeling really happy, and now they get the home crowd behind them, finally excited about a game. That's all the time that we have. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Yeah,
the Vikings, man. Hopefully it's a great Sunday night football game.
Yeah, enjoy it. And there's a huge slate of Thursday night, Monday nights. We're ready to give you some extra reels here. Always check us out, Just Saying with no G, WJS on Instagram. Check us out, Just Saying Football on YouTube for all of our videos and Spotify for all of our podcasts. Get us in your ear. And thank you for listening. Enjoy the Sunday.
Enjoy.